Yo, I'm Mat4yo, and this is Chisel This. Today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon Ash Ketchum rap cypher by Cam Steady. We're also going to be showing some behind the scenes video of me performing my verse for that cypher. Gonna start all over again. I wanna be a hero. And we're going to take a little tour of my studio back here, show you some of my favorite pieces of my collection that are related to Pokemon Advanced and the Hoenn region. If you couldn't tell, I'm a massive Pokemon fan. I have been since before I could even read, so about 1 or 2 years ago. And today, I'm so excited to be sharing some of that love with you. When Cam told me that he was going to be making an Ash Ketchum rap cypher, it sounds like a meme of an idea, but I got the vision right away because I knew that Ash's story is not just about the character. I knew that Ash, since the very beginning, I think, has always been a proxy for you and I, right? We are going on a journey of life, and as we grow up, we do amazing things like Ash does, but Ash doesn't grow up himself. So a part of us is always protected and contained. And I use that idea as the basis for my latest song and music video, which I hope you'll check out. It's called Goodbye Ash, made with one of my favorite music producers, Mat4yo.
It was the backdrop image while I kicked it on the blacktop, scribbled in my math book, kidding around with grandpa, building in the sandbox. Anytime I look at it, I picture my innocence like a snapshot.
So check it out if you haven't already. What are you doing? But anyway, I also used the same themes with my verse for this cypher. And I was so thankful to Cam that as soon as he came up with the idea, he said, you know, you can pick whichever Ash region you want first. Which I know was a translation for, yes, Mat4yo, you can have Ash from Pokemon Advanced, the 3rd generation. He gave me the illusion that I had the choice of choosing, but it was only ever going to be Pokemon Advanced. If you couldn't tell, that is my absolute favorite part of anything of Pokemon is Pokemon Advanced. When that show was airing, it was right around the time where I really became a true hardcore Pokemon fan. That's when I pushed away all the other fads and I said Pokemon is my thing. This is the form of media that I most identify with, I care about the most, and I'm just utterly fascinated by it. That was around the age of 8, 9, 10 years old, and so I care deeply about it. Ash's journey, May's journey, and their companions Brock and Max really correlated with what I felt that I was going through at the time. When people were casting doubt on me for still being a fan, I turned to them and they validated my affection for the franchise. I could look at Ash and see him get knocked down and get back up and say, I'm gonna get back up too. So I've resonated with that, and it has always been so close in my heart. And that is why I wanted to represent that part of Ash where he's no longer just a little kid goofing around, that he actually has to start taking himself, but more importantly, the others around him more seriously, where he has to realize that he is no longer the student, but he is also, in many ways, a teacher to other people now. And he has a responsibility to be a good role model, to be a good example for them. I mean, Ash gets very overzealous, and a lot of trainers have to walk him back a little bit and say, you need to be humble. Part of being the best is realizing that you're not the only one, that there's not only one way of doing something. If you think that you know it all and you got it all figured out, then you're guaranteed that something that you believe is not right. It's like Socrates, right? I know that I know nothing. There's a sense of humility that Ash gained during this period that I really wanted to emulate. Am I the person who cares most about this in the world? Like, this is my thing, right? I love it. I know everything about it, and I wanted to represent the way that I would have wanted to see it if I was just coming at this from a fan and not a creator. But I have the blessing of being a creator in this situation, and so let's dive into the Ash Ketchum cypher.
I had to be the very best, it's my motto. Whenever I met
this rap started with Zach B, and what a perfect opening. It's amazing because you have all different kinds of approaches to the cypher, Zach's being one that I'm not going to make references to specific events as much as I'm going to make a reference to the feeling of being somebody who's starting out on a journey and having doubt cast upon them and proving that they can get back up when they get knocked down. That is the feeling that you get from Zach, that emotional tenderness, vulnerable delivery that he puts on is just perfect. When I listened to it for the first time, it really sunk in when he said, I suck at buys but love an introductory. Pause. Just like Butterfree. And it's like, oh, dude, my heart. Like, yeah, you were going off about like really relatable stuff, but now that you brought back in the Pokemon part of this, and now it all clicks. And this makes so much sense to me. And what amazed me so much about his verse when I first listened to it is how he utilized silence in the verse. And by the time I heard his, I had already written mine and everything, and I listened to that and I'm like, oh my God. Like, how come I didn't think of that? Like, I'm trying to fit as much as I can into this, and like, there is something to be said for just pausing and letting the moment, it's just like the moment when the ball is in the air right before you catch it, right? You can't just throw it, you have a catch back and forth with yourself the whole time. You have to let that rise and fall, that like gravity take control of the delivery sometimes. And he did that so well, so much so that I had to go back into my verse and just carve out some space in between some of my lines. That is all because of Zach. So you don't even know how you're inspiring somebody sometimes. And I love that we can really play back and forth off of each other. That's what makes this work so well, is that the talent on this Cypher is so amazing, and it's so fitting for the character that we all grew up loving and watching and resonating with. And then GE comes in, and this is like a flip, right? Now that Ash is established, now he can have a little bit of fun, be a goofball, be a cartoon character, essentially. Not that he's not in the first season, but that is the feeling I get when GE comes in and says, now I'm back with the sequel. Like, this is something that you're familiar with, and now this is the remix, right? And it's great how he has such a different approach than Zach, where he's coming in with wordplay and referencing specific Pokemon and their biology. My quill is nice, so back off the heat, because the heat is on his back. These bands all on my green look like Casey's Chikorita, because that Pokemon wears a band on its head. Totodile, Bluetooth, he's the blue gator with a tooth. That King Do Rock, Poliwhirl evolves into Politoed with the King's Rock. Ask Gary what it's like, I don't care about a type, because Ash goes up against Blastoise with the Charizard, and he's just, yeah, I don't care about a type, you know? And GE has that characteristic about his delivery that is perfect for this style of writing. Day one, when you saw the legend get taught a lesson, and then he says, I'm gold after that. Clearly a reference to Ash seeing Ho-Oh on day one of his journey, and now he's golden and his heart is electric, and like it's tying things together really nicely. So I'm a third, my verse is next. So my approach to this was very methodical. I want to say things that no other Ash can say. And if you go through my verse, there's maybe one or two lines that are generic, and everything else is very specific to Ash from Advance, or can actually only be said by that iteration of Ash. When you have a Cypher with 8 rappers and they're all playing the same person, how do you not take that approach? I go through my document. One of the first things I did was write down all the iconic lyrics from the Generation 3 theme songs, which I think are like peak Pokemon theme songs besides the first one, right? Like the first one's iconic, you can't get rid of that, but like the Gen 3 theme songs for me are my favorites, and they have such iconic lines. The ones that I referenced in my verse are the first line, gonna start all over again.
Gonna start all over again in no man's land, but a master's road never ends, and all of my friends
From the land, sea, sky, the best this world has ever seen. A hero's what I wanna be. I wanna be a hero, Pokemon.
'Cause a hero's what I wanna be. Pardon me, I mean gonna be.
Yeah, everybody knows that. Another one is, it's a battle, win or lose, from Battle Frontier. It's a battle, win or lose. Some of the other things that I have written down are all of the Pokemon that Ash had. So like Pikachu, like Electric Overload, absorb the blue orb. Tailo ate his chocolate bar. I have a section for character traits, you know, from mentor to mentee. Patience, training, learning new moves. Events, right, gym battles, the Grand Festival, Battle Frontier, beating Articuno. And you'll see how that comes back with Sweeping Legends, right? The Terracotta Contest, split the ribbon in half. One of my favorite moments. And so I'll go through my verse and point out some of the key things that I referenced.
all of my friends, we walk different paths, but in Hoenn, I'll be first to advance.
In Hoenn, I'll be first to advance. obvious reference to Game Boy Advance and the Advanced Generation, which it's named after. All of his friends walk different paths, right? Misty is gone now, Brock is gone, but he'll come back, and Ash is going into this alone for the first time besides the very first time. And that's what I thought is unique about this, that I wanted to capture the essence of. You know, it's dramatic. He's going in there alone. He's starting somewhere new, someplace that no one's ever been before. And I think that the way that they changed the drums to match my kind of choppy delivery, could start all over again in no man's land, but a master's road in the ends, and all of my friends, we walk different paths. The beat is going in perfect sync with me, and so there's this feeling of steady progression moving forward.
From the land, sea, sky, they'll see why I can dash, swim, fly past the bad team guys, and I train to fight. In my contest, it's not quite bright and beautiful.
From the land, sea, sky, from the earth, the land, the sea, and sky, that can never win, but they sure can try. Oh, I'm unbeatable. Obviously, land, sea, and sky, right? Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, huge themes of the Hoenn region. This is the first region that's really about nature and different terrains and environments and exploring all of that has to offer. And so I'm trying to emphasize that from the land, sea, and sky. They'll see why I can dash, swim, fly, right? Land, dash, sea, swim, sky, fly. Perfect combinations of words. And now here's the big moment for me where I really wanted to emphasize Ash's initial immaturity and his growth as a character. He says, I train to fight. In my contest, it's not quite bright and beautiful. Like, his contests have been gym battles and championship tournaments, but in this new generation, there's an actual thing called contests, which is what May decides to pursue and fall in love with, and that's when she decides to become a contest coordinator. And obviously Beautifly is one of May's Pokemon. Beautifly is the Pokemon that really captures her heart and makes her want to become a contestant. And the episode that happens in is called All Things Bright and Beautifly. So you have that moment of immaturity followed by that breath. This realization, but if it's destiny, I can be the mentor and not mentee. We could butt our heads or could be a team. Be the best that the world's ever seen. Cause we always will follow the stream. Pokemon! So he has this moment of realization where maybe I should not turn a blind eye to the potential of being a teaching person in May's life. Maybe I should team up with her instead, and maybe we could go on to do something that no one's ever done before. I had a few different ways of wording it, and I finally settled on this. And it's great also because destiny is a word used in the movie Pokemon Destiny Deoxys, so there's another reference there too. Another type of line I wanted to do is just like Stone Cold, like bar, you know, just like a reference to his Pokemon, just like drop a hard bar in there for people who might not get all the references. And so I did that. I said earlier how I had a list. I went with Trico and Torkoal. When I'm on the beat and go off the dome, it's like Torkoal's steam. Take that for a second. When I'm on the beat, but I'm freestyling off the dome, off the top of the head, but off of Torkoal's shell, off of his dome, it's like steam, right? It's like what I spit is fire, right? But if you give me a piece of that loose leaf, if you give me a piece of paper and my writtens, you see how my writtens are? Then all I spit is bullet seeds. And I use Trico because he has a loose leaf that he keeps in his mouth at all times, one of the iconic Pokemon of Ash. And Ash and Trico have this really amazing moment where they try to teach each other how to use bullet seed, and they're like eating watermelons and spitting seeds out. And for me as a fan, it's a perfect reference.
When I'm on the beat and go off the dome, it's like Torkoal steam. But like Trico, if you give me a piece of that loose leaf, then all I'll spit is bullet seeds.
So lend an ear like it's Max and Brock to me, because Max is always pulling Brock's ear. How I'm rocking this thunder armor and got this plot under lock and key. So there is an iconic moment in the anime which many people kind of clown on when Ash uses Pikachu's electricity to cloak the flying type Swellow, who is typically weak to electric type moves, in a golden thunder armor and uses that to defeat Tate and Liza. It's a great moment. And it's like plot armor, right? Like that would only happen because he's the protagonist. And so I'm saying, yeah, like I got this plot under lock and key with my thunder armor. I can brawl with Flannery, Watson, Roxanne, and crush the Magma and Aqua teams. 4 gym leaders referenced right there.
Cause a hero's what I wanna be. Pardon me, I mean gonna be.
I love that line so much. And I felt like it was a power move to take that line and say, no, scratch that. I don't want to be a hero. I'm gonna be a hero. And then I go into this rhyme scheme where I wanted to rhyme things with Ruby and Sapphire, sort of the threequel to Ash's immature moment earlier in the verse about the contests and his friends, right? Being a mentor. This is the payoff for that moment.
Shooting the backfire, it's a battle, win or lose. Is it all you can do to make Ash high? Move with the crew, it's no mystery. It knew that there's something more precious than rubies and sapphires. Some more beautiful stands higher up in the stands while I'm cheering on my friends. Now I know better to question whether make it to the stage ablaze. You can.
Shooting you'll backfire. Do to make Ash tired. Rubies and sapphires. Beautiful stands higher. There's little you can do to make Ash tired. Move with the crew, it's no mystery of Mew. One of my favorite Pokemon movies, just behind Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker. So there's something more precious than rubies and sapphires, right? A lot of people go for the gold, they go for the gems, but it's not about winning or losing, it's about the friends that you make along the way. Something more beautiful stands higher, up in the stands while I'm cheering on my friends, while I'm in the stadium cheering on May. And I think that is one of the lasting visuals I have in my head of these episodes, of how often May is doing a contest and then it cuts away to Ash, Brock, and Max sitting in the stands and providing commentary and stuff like that. I wanted to create that visual. And now I know better to question whether May could set the stage ablaze. She can. I wanted to give myself one moment to really let May shine. In a sense, that's what Ash does, right? Ash takes a back seat in a lot of these episodes and lets May have her moment. And that's what I wanted to do for her in this moment. Obviously, Blaziken becomes May's ace Pokemon.
My friends, now I know better to question whether make it to the stage ablaze. You can.
Remember earlier how I talked about like key points in the story and how he masters the Iron Tail, and not just the story of all the medals he's getting, right? So Iron Tail, or medal story, right? Tail, T-A-L-E. When my Sceptile prevails, will split you in two like the terracotta ribbon. One of my favorite moments when Ash and May go head-to-head in a contest together. They tie in the last few seconds, and then they decide to split the only ribbon that was available for the one winner, and they keep it as a token of their time together. And they even show each other that they still have it when they reunite in the Diamond and Pearl era. Top 8, but you know I'm forever grand. On the new frontier, I leave legends swept. So in the Battle Frontier, Ash actually does defeat legendary Pokemon. As champ of the Battle Frontier, they asked me to lend a hand. But Ash says no. Ash says no to being a Frontier brain because his brain can't rest. He hasn't had enough. He hasn't won it all yet. And that's a perfect segue into the next era of Pokemon.
But a brain like mine, it cannot rest.
So Ham Sandwich comes in. I feel like Generation 4 Ash is really the peak of what has been established so far before things kind of reset in Generation 5. Ham Sandwich does it justice here. He comes in, and I love when he says, just dropped in Sinnoh for the long haul, and I didn't come here to play small ball. You know, and he references Apom, who goes on to be a small ball ping pong master. And then he starts referencing Paul. Paul is the big antagonist of Ash in that region. He's the first person to really challenge Ash's style of training and befriending Pokemon. Paul takes a much less humane approach to training Pokemon, and what's great about it is that he's successful with it. And so Ash has to question himself and say, is it really the right thing to invest time into a Pokemon who I'm friendly with but might not have the best stats, right? Ash has to make those decisions, and he does side with his personal beliefs, and he takes Paul down in the end, which proves him to be right. Obviously, he takes Paul's Chimchar, makes him look stupid. He's taking misfits and making legends. That's a perfect line. He's taking Pokemon that were, you know, kicked to the curb and turning them into amazing, champion-worthy Pokemon. He rolls with 7 because he uses 7 Pokemon throughout the Sinnoh region. The source, of course, I'm the coordinator. He's talking about contests.
Wait, yes, who on his team? I guess that I lost.
He does this pause and the record scratches, and he's like, wait, he has who on his team? Like, I feel like that's what everybody thought when Ash gets to the championship and he just gets taken down by a dude with an action replay. Like, of course he lost, but he can't be upset by the way that he fought. And that is a great lesson that Ham Sandwich incorporates into this verse. And as he keeps going on here, he says how he's going to smoke Pokemon Bounty Hunter J. Totally the only reference there. And I feel like I'll never be growing up, but he's lending a nice transition into Generation 5 now. So awesome verse from Ham. And now Kevin Bennett comes in, and this is a sort of verse that kind of gives you whiplash. It's like, whoa, like how many things is he saying here? He's going so fast. The flow is insane. And there's a lot of small references that he makes that really can go unnoticed, so I'm going to try to point out some of them here. Together travel the region UNI, a reference to N. Grown up a lot, but she called me kid. That's Iris playing with Goo Goo Dolls. Goo Goo Dolls being a band known for their song, which is called Iris, so that's a cool reference there. I don't trip when I lose to a rival. The rival's name is Trip, and he does lose to him infamously with the level 5 Snivy. And then he has this wild part where he references almost every badge name in the region. Trio, Basic, Insect, Bolt, Quake, Jet, Freeze, Toxic badge. Everybody says like it's not black and white, like it's a overplay thing. But he says it's not so black and white, the palette color wide and my canvas bright with new tones. Like, that was poetic. Wow. Do it for those that reaching for greatness. You could be champion, you never know. So he says region, but he means region. And he says you never know, but he means Unova, the name of the region. You never know. McGuire comes in. Let me talk about McGuire for a second, okay? I feel like that guy is a ticking time bomb because any day now I can wake up and see him like on the radio, on a billboard. Like, I'm just waiting for the right person to hear his voice and scoop him up and make him an A-list celebrity. Like, I'm waiting for him to sing the hook on a Drake song. Like, when's it gonna happen? Come on. But, like, he again proves that theory of mine here with his vocal performance. He starts his verse by making Alola to the Alola cool again with French version, C'est la vie dans Kalos, which translates to such is life in Kalos, or this is life in Kalos. Talonflame Allume Falot translates to light the lanterns, which I feel like is very visual, sets the stage of like a night in France illuminated only by the street lights or the lanterns. Very, very cool stuff. I feel like everybody loves this line, XY, life is variable. They're like, oh my God, so poetic, right? Water pulse, sometimes they befuddle because that can cause confusion. You know, everything leading up to this moment where he stops and sings, I feel like it's just, this is the moment, right? I send up flares to find you. Flares, Team Flare, obviously, but it really is a nice visual of like this desperate moment where like people are separated or stranded and they're sending up flares in the sky and trying to send signals to you, trying to communicate something. There's something cinematic about this whole moment. I'll never win without you. Like trainers, you never run because trainer battles don't run from another. Yeah, I feel like he's all about the performance, and which is why I say like I'm just waiting to hear him on the radio one day. I don't know why it's taking so long. We're almost there. Connor Quest. This is another one like Kevin Bennett. It's just like unhinged rapping right here. This is insane. He comes in with the Aloha to the Alola, but he takes very obtuse opportunities to rhyme with that, which I appreciate. Low grass, coast palm, postcard, gold heart, known stars. And he does another thing like Kevin where he is making a lot of small references to the characters' names. So let's get into a Rowlet, settle it now type of vibe. Rowlet, without question, how. Friend with strength makes you glad he's on your side, glad he on. Lies can rock, like can rock. Any baggage, let it air into the space like cosmic dust, like Nebby in the bag reference. Kind and gentle nature tends to lower their defense. Like, that was a subtle flex. Like, you didn't have to do the nature thing there with how a gentle nature lowers defense stats, but I feel like that was a flex. Despite it all, still don't know what loser means. Lusamine, like the character. Marshmallows, mallow. Lana, if you're softer than marshmallows, the oceans here aren't shallow. Got to focus or you'll be fighting ghosts like a Mars shadow. So he's saying like, you know, you'll be swimming with the fishies, or as a ghost, you'll be fighting ghosts like the fighting ghost type Mars shadow. Give him a jolt of 10 million boats. Cool off in the seas, take a dip in the salt. My God, like that is, I feel like he is just switching it up like crazy here. And 10 million volt is Pikachu's Z move as well. If you got fuel left, burn it, Professor Burnett. Cooking up a storm, got a special blend stirring. I love this line. I don't know if I'm getting it exactly right, but I could be onto something here. Not a serving island. I feel like that's a reference to like tropical drinks, like a special blend stirring. And he's saying how it's not a serving island where they're not going to serve you drinks, like it's a dry island because like kids are on it and they're going to school. So you're not going to get served a drink, but he is on an island serving you in battle. He's not only serving, but he's riding, surfing, gliding, swerving, climbing, herding, fighting vermin. Like, that swell, I mean, that is like the visual representation of like a slope going up and then the firework going off at the end and skies are bursting. I love that. So Cam did the ending here, the final iteration of Ash. And just like Zach was the perfect opening, what a perfect ending that Cam created here. I remember being on the phone with Cam, and this is before he had written his verse, and it was like 3 weeks before the last episode of Ash aired, and I was telling him, like, oh, they just like revealed the last 3 episode names, and I told him how the last one was going to be about, like, you know, getting to the other side of the rainbow or whatever it was called. And I remember he was like, all right, I gotta go, bye. Like he's like, I have to go write my verse. I have to incorporate that into my verse, which he did, which was awesome. I feel like Cam knew the assignment here, which is like, hey, like, you just heard 7 rappers. Like, I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna switch things up. I'm gonna make this the quintessential ending verse for Ash.
It's the coronation.
First of all, I love the pause. Like, you're waiting for a while. It's your dramatic pause before he says, it's the coronation. You know, holy crap. You know, this is the World Coronation Series. This is the moment where he gets his crown. You waited 25 years for this. This is my victory lap, a master class in battle rap. Mega Ring, Hit That Dance, Z-Moves, and Dynamax, all 3 power-ups that he's going to use in battle. I got Regions of Artillery Strap. He's gone through this 8 regions now worth of experience, and this is the crowning moment. Familiar faces of the friends and fam I faced and I beat. The very best of our community has come to compete. I feel like that has to be a double meaning, right? This is not just the climax of Ash. This is the climax of us. I mean, it's not to say it's the end of the story, but this is the climax of something, right? This is the climax of all of these ciphers that we made. This is like a new peak. Again, I'm not saying it's the end, but this is certainly a climax of something. You know, maybe we'll start a new wave of ciphers after this, but this is the climax of everything we've done up to this point. The very best people of the nerdcore community have come out to not only be on this cipher, but all of the ones that Cam has made. The very best of our community has come to compete over the years. And I love how he's getting into it by the time he's screaming. I love it, scrapping for survival. And he extends his verse, right? This beautiful pause. You get to see all of the flashbacks. Freshie Canal makes an immaculate piano outro. All those years we spent, those decades came and went. They really did. I mean, look at this, right? How did we get this far? I may not know your battles or your story or your quest, but when it comes to being you, just be the very best. Perfectly said. A simple ending to a climactic story. And that really is, I think, the message of Ash's story. Ash didn't really have an end to his story. He just sort of took a bow and said, we're going to go on forever. You know, there is no end point. I will keep training forever. I can't believe that he's done now. I can't believe his story is in the rear view. But what he left us with is certainly how Cam leaves this cipher. When it comes to being you, just be the very best. I also need to mention the visuals. I mean, my gosh. Kevin Crust, this is a magnum opus.
Wow. Wow. Kevin, jeez. Slow it down, man.
He did his absolute best to pick out references that people made throughout this whole video. And he also did his very best to satisfy me, someone who gave him a list of all the specific things I wanted him to put on the screen with the episode name and description and everything. He did pretty much everything I wanted him to show on screen. He absolutely nailed it and helped to sell the concept of my verse and all of the others. He has such a perfect way of rhythmically editing. There's always a swipe or a push or a motion on the beat. When Beautifly fans out its wings, it all matches the percussion. There is such a natural feeling to this video because of how well he edited it. And also can't understate the mixing as well that Cam and Freshie Canal did. A round of applause for everybody, and just know that this is not the end. And we have to put our faith into the new Pokemon anime and hope that that succeeds and continues to make Pokemon a generational experience for everybody to enjoy. The idea for my song was started as Never Growing Up, but I think the more appropriate message is to never grow out of what you love, to always keep it close to your heart. And that way you can never really have to say goodbye, just move into different phases of your life. So let's enjoy this next phase together. I hope you'll stick around for my channel for more songs about Pokemon. It seems like you guys would like that, so I'm gonna consider making some more of them for sure. For now, I'm Mat4yo, and that's all for you today.
Every great story told has a curtain that has to be closed. Kanto we saw where the rainbow begins. In Johto we fought on a prayer and a wing. In Hoenn we traversed the land and the sea. In Sinnoh we climbed up the highest of peaks. Unova we battled.